Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the JKWD podcast. We hope you're having an awesome moment right now. And if you're not, you're about to. We'll get there in a minute, but Awilda Rivera is back on the podcast. And I listened back to that the first time she was on. It was back like episode 86 or something. You go find it, and we'll tell you you want to listen to that before you listen to this. Get an idea who she is and what she's been through, because we didn't cover that this time. But we opened that one with like, wow, look at all the, like, wow, literally, like, look at all the energy. And I had forgotten that before I listened back to it yesterday. And she still got the energy. So
still got the energy.
Yeah. She all is great. But first, hey, Kelvin, how you doing?
I'm doing awesome. Thank you very much. I am. It's sunny and bright. I'm healthy. Down to 170 pounds. Whoa. Hey. I'm loving that. And I got a haircut, so I'm ultimately cuter than I was just a week ago.
Ladies.
Well kept, as they say. Life's good. I'm having a good time. How about you?
I'm doing good. We're starting to get toward the end of fall or end of September. I guess we got to talk about that next episode then, because that's the end of the third quarter, huh?
I'm hearing stories.
We're headed toward fall, and I'm feeling pretty good about what I expect to be going on in my life over the next few months. Nothing for public consumption yet, but we have a baby who's happily chattering away. She's
we do. I could have sworn she just said some actual words.
Yeah, no, she's almost there. Like, she's starting to understand that if she opens her mouth, she gets open sounds, and if she closes her mouth, she gets closed sound. Like she gets the difference between like and ah. And she hasn't figured out like she does this thing that looks like she's practicing talking without sound coming out.
Hey.
Hopefully
she long now.
Yeah, so she's got that going on. And she's starting to be able to amuse herself more. Which is interesting to watch. She can she's got if you give her a variety of toys, she'll play with a variety of toys.
Right.
Like but she'll explore them. She won't just be like, oh, there's a new thing. Mm-hmm. It's like, this one rolls. Let me learn how to roll. This one twists and makes a noise. Let me learn how to twist this. And this one turns and bends. So let me play with that a little bit. And then she'll pick her favorites, but she'll explore them first, which is kind of cool to watch. And then, maybe someday she'll start moving on her own. Like, she's not quite crawling. We talked about this before the podcast, but she's either head up or butt up, not both. You need both to crawl. She'll get her butt up and put her head down and kind of scooch, but that doesn't work if you're not on a soft surface.
That could be a pain on the carpet, boy. I tell you.
Well, she does it on the carpet, but she doesn't do it on the hardwood, because you put your head down on the hardwood and they go, and you don't want that.
That noise. Oh, she puts it down definitively. I got it. I mean.
And so, we're working toward that. But you put her in a standing position. She's like, I can do this. She can't, but but she seems to get it, because she watches people walk, I think.
Well, pretty soon, I'm pretty sure she's going to develop that sheer determination, and then she's going to start doing that's SHEAR determination.
Yeah.
And she's going to be walking and climbing and flying around. You just watch. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, I mean, we can see it. We can see it.
So awesome.
So anyway, that's how we're doing. Hey, I mentioned that fall is coming, and with it, you're probably interested in like warmer foods like soup. So you can get some bone broth to use as a base for your soup, or you can just get some soups straight from Kettle and Fire. Our friends over there want to give you 10% off. You can get like an original flavor beef or chicken bone broth. You can get like a chipotle beef. You can get a turmeric ginger chicken bone broth. I actually really like the turmeric ginger. In fact, I was drinking tea and during this episode, and one of the tea bags is turmeric and one of them is ginger. I actually
you
really
just
like that combination. But the they also have soups. They have like a mushroom bisque, and they have some miso soup. And some of them, if you're doing a keto diet, they are keto friendly. The bone broth will help you with an intermittent fasting regimen. They do everything low and slow. The bone broth's cooked at least 10 hours, in some cases 20 hours, to really get some of that collagen in there, help you recover from your workouts, from your injuries, and make you feel good. So go to kettleandfire.com. Use code BetterHumanhood at checkout for 10% off. That's KETTLEANDFIRE.com. Use code BetterHumanhood at checkout for 10% off your order.
Wow.
I feel like I did that in one breath.
I was wondering.
I feel like
you just came back from the other room, so you weren't in a hurry.
That was probably leftover energy from this episode.
Wilda, yeah.
Just in case you're too wrapped up in the whole episode, by the time you get to the end, not only does she have a new book out called Success Math, available everywhere, like you can actually walk into a bookstore and get it too, but she's hosting a retreat in St. Augustine, Florida. It's going to be a full moon yoga wellness retreat. They get a private chef, beach house, all that kind of stuff. $150 discount if you book by October 15th. So we wanted to mention that since that's coming up real quick. She's got more details on it toward the end of the episode.
You ready?
So I go, let's play some music, and on the other side of it, Awilda Rivera will join us.
Alrighty. See you in a minute.
Podcast, where we talk about better humanhood and teach you how to dominate your world. You ready? Here we go.
Hello. Hello. Is she here? Is she there? No, she's got that look on her face. I don't know if she's smiling.
Hey.
Hi.
Hey, it is. Okay.
I couldn't figure out if it was working or not.
It's working. You're here. We can hear you.
Great.
Cool.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Good.
How's being a dad?
It's interesting. She's just about 9 months old, so.
So she's been out as much time as she was in.
Yep, and my day job, I work nights from home, nights and weekends from home. So we haven't had to put her in daycare, which means that I get her all day while my wife's at work, and then I go to work sometimes before my wife gets home, so she's just sitting here with me the whole time. So there's a lot of daddy-daughter time, and it's a lot sometimes.
Yeah, it can be. It adds up. You can't really talk to her about politics or anything.
No, and I can't really leave her home and go for a run. So
no, you can't. But you can get one of those like.
Yeah, well, it's finally starting to cool off enough that I can. I'm like, we have a good jogging stroller, but I can't put her in it when it's 105 degrees out. And
yeah, you would have to either go like super early in the morning or super late at night.
Exactly. So it's finally starting to cool off. I think we're heading up to Syracuse for the weekend, and then when we come back, it seems to be cooling off enough here. So
it's cooling off enough here.
Yeah. Looking at the temperatures going, we're gonna have to buy clothes that we don't own to go up there.
Is it really cold already in Syracuse, Kevin?
Well, it went from 90 to like 55 in a day. It seems that Mother Nature knows precisely the day and the hour that the New York State Fair shuts down. And there's always something. So that afternoon, I mean, we kicked off that shutting down with big rain and thunder showers for like the rest of the night at about the time it was supposed to shut down. So it don't even wait. It's like, hurry up, get out.
Wow.
So, and like I got up this morning, it was 50. I mean, we did have a little respite the last couple of days because it got up to 80.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, today was definitely a 50 day, and it's kind of hanging in there. So
wow.
That's the way that goes. So are you still in Atlanta?
I am still in Atlanta. I am actually, the weather is kind of similar to, it's like hot in the middle of the day, but it's cool in the morning and it's cool at night.
We need some of your cool in the morning and cool at night, because down here on the coast, like it barely gets below 80.
That's crazy.
Yeah, like and I'm finishing at work at 3 a.m. and my thermostat says it's 79 outside.
Josh, you need to make sure you're getting enough sleep, buddy.
Well, yeah. Well, I finish work at 3 and I go to bed and I get up whenever she makes me, whenever the baby makes me, and hopefully, hopefully, I try to get a couple hours in the afternoon.
Have you seen or heard of Ariana Huffington's book that she came out all about sleep?
No.
Because she, a couple of years ago, I want to say like 2 or 3 years ago, she had a accident where she was, overworking, and then at the computer, literally like passed out, smashed her face on the desk, and had to go to the hospital and everything. And then after that, she was like, "Oh crap!" Like,
sleep is definitely important.
Yeah, so then she started writing. I gotta get my charger. She started writing her book, and then she also that's when she launched Thrive Global.
Okay.
Because she wanted to take some of that energy, and dedicate it to self-care. So
gotcha. Yeah. So my day typically is hopefully she goes back to sleep from about 2 I put her down for a nap about 2. And if she goes to sleep, great. And if she doesn't, great, because she's in a crib, safe. And I go in the other room and go down for 2 to 3 hours. And if she's loud, I won't sleep through it. But and I just know if I'm sleep deprived that I'm not gonna go sorry, I can't go get the groceries today. Yeah, I'm not getting in the car. Yeah. Good.
Sleep is important, man.
Yep. How are you on time for today? Do you have
I got some time. Yeah, okay. I have an hour.
Cool.
I have a little bit more than that. I know we were going to catch up a little bit at the beginning. So.
Yeah. Great, because I listened back to the first one we did, and there's some stuff I want to go back to, but you got so much new stuff that I want to talk about too.
Great. Well, I'm game.
Good. Yeah, so welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm just going to point people back to the original episode that you were on to listen to you talk about kind of your background and your mission and all that stuff, because why do that again?
Right.
Plus, we get twice the traffic for just go back.
Get more traffic. To the other episode. I wanted to talk about yoga first, because I know that's it's something you do there at the studio, and it's been interesting following your Instagram for the last year and a half, because when you were on last time, you were kind of just starting really difficult poses, and you would post your learning on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, now you've got like now you're there on this stuff, so it was cool like watching the learning process. And then you also do these retreats
Mm-hmm.
involved in. And last time you mentioned like yoga with a capital Y, you know, like really
Right.
getting into the practice and like what it means beyond like a 1 hour class at the Y.
Mm-hmm.
We never really got into that. Do you want to talk a little bit more about like what that is and how it shows up for you and how you hope to bring it to others?
Of course. I think that, and it's funny you should bring that up because a client and now kind of friend of mine also mentioned to me, like, oh, are you still practicing? Because I don't see you posting like awkward, intense poses on Instagram anymore. Like, are you still doing yoga? And I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like I'm still doing yoga, but yoga with a capital Y. And the truth is that about 7 months ago, I got pretty badly injured from yoga, from the physical asana practice. And, that was part and parcel me being obsessed, for lack of a better word, with, getting my leg up here and like standing on my head and all these things that, the truth of the matter is aren't really yoga. And when I got physically injured and wasn't able to even really do a sun salutation because my pelvis was so thrown off, like uneven, and my SI joints were so aggravated, and my piriformis was like on fire and didn't want to work anymore. It was a huge wake up call in terms of sustainable and organic movement in the body and what that means. Mm-hmm. And the fact that yoga isn't a panacea. It is not a cure-all. You shouldn't only practice physical asana. You need to like walk and run and lift weights and just do varied activity with your body, because any repetitive motion is not good. Secondly, the weird obsession our culture has with like the hard poses, myself included at the time, is really deleterious to the actual benefits of yoga. Mm-hmm. And to kind of speak on that a little bit more, yoga is like a tree, right? There are roots and bark and stems and branches, and the asana is just like a little branch, like off of another branch, off of another branch. That the whole point of it is just to get your body tired enough so that the rest of you can kind of integrate and focus and be. What I've had to reconnect with, which is a different type of yoga practice over the last 7 months, is really what they call bhakti yoga or jnana yoga, which is bhakti yoga is the yoga of love and devotion, of connectedness. And sometimes bhakti yoga is shared through kirtan music or chanting or ecstatic dance or things like that. Jnana yoga is the yoga of chanting mantra 108 times. Wow. So jnana yoga is about what some in the West might call prayer, right? But it's more about setting your intention on a specific thing and utilizing your energy to filter your intention in that direction. So, and just more spiritual practice. So yoga in real life is about being able to interact with the world in a way that is non-harmful for yourself and interact with others in a way that is non-harming in the exchange, as well as putting an emphasis on concentration, meditation, self-study, surrendering to something bigger than yourself, interconnectedness, the idea that we're all one, and using that in real life. So it's like, yeah, you could come into a yoga class and be able to stand on your head and pull your foot back to the top of your head, but like, how are your relationships?
Right on.
Like, that's yoga. And when you go to India, like for those people who want to like sojourn to the Mandarin and blah, 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 like you go there and it's not core power. It's not goat yoga. It's not like, this rigid physical thing, because yoga is supposed to be prescriptive. It's supposed to be Josh comes to me or Kevin comes to me and says, I have anxiety. I'm tired all the time. I'm doing blah, 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 blah. And we say, okay, let's use yoga to fortify you, right? Not to fix you, because that's not my job. That's not the job of yoga, but to fortify you in such a way so that you can heal yourself and you can come back into a place of integration, which is why, like, the idea of having like 20 people in a yoga class or 100 people in a yoga class is just kind of ridiculous, because you can't look at the bodies. You can't whisper into their, like, is this okay? Like, your elbow is looking crazy right now. Like, your job as a teacher, if you move into that space, is to protect your students, to create something that's individualized for your students. And it's difficult to do that if you have 100 students and there's only one of you. And even as a person who's practicing, for me, it was like, okay, well, to like take your ego out of it, take like, oh, well, I'm a yoga teacher, so I should be able to X, Y, Z. There's incredible yoga teachers who are master teachers that are quadriplegics, who can tell you how to use your body in a certain way, but also can highlight the philosophical underpinnings, which are really what it's all about. Like, one of the main texts of yoga is Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And
say that one more time, that much slower.
The Patanjali, he's like the yoga saint of yoga, Yoga Sutras. And the Yoga Sutras are basically these one-line aphorisms that were written in 4 padas or chapters. And each chapter is basically directed towards a different student. The mythology behind it is that this guy Patanjali, he knew all about yoga in ancient times, and people would come to him like, what is this? How am I supposed to use this? How does this make me better? Right? And the first 2 lines of the book are, and now for the business of yoga, yoga is yoga. And then everything else after that is designed to help you get closer to yoga is yoga. Right? So each pada is written kind of to speak to a different mindset. So there's one that's like, hey, if you do yoga, like, you're going to get all these superpowers, but it's not about the superpowers, right? There's one that's like, well, if you practice yoga and you're like doing all of this stuff, then you'll be able to like know the answers to the questions of the universe. But that's not the whole point, but that'll also happen. Right. And the cool thing about it is that their asana, the physical postures of yoga, are only mentioned in these 196 aphorisms 2 times. Everything else is about like, if you meditate on your mind and your body and your purpose, then you'll know why you're here. Or if you meditate on Om, you'll know why the universe exists. Or, like, there's like one line that is so powerful that's like, for those with an intense desire to connect with spirit, it's waiting near you. So it's like a lot of it is more about like you connecting with something bigger than yourself and giving you all these different ways that it could resonate with you.
There's a new movie coming out on Ram Dass's teachings, and they called the movie Becoming Nobody.
Yeah, the cool thing about Ram Dass is that his story when he went to, so Ram Dass, and I mean, I'm kind of just giving some brief outline, but when he got on his sojourns for spirituality, and someone told him about Neroli Baba, which was his teacher, and was like, yo, there's this Indian dude out in India, like, it's hard to get there. You're going to have to hike for days, but like, when you get there, everything will make sense.
Well, and this was a Harvard professor,
right? Exactly.
When he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't already
like
some lost
hippie. Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Like, and so he's like, okay, so he goes on this sojourn, and a couple nights before, as he's going there, he has this vision of like his deceased mother, Ram Dass, of his deceased mother, and her kind of like being there, and he has like this deep moment, right? Where he's like, whoa, this is crazy. So then he goes to meet Neroli Baba, and Neroli Baba is like a guru, but he's like an unwilling guru in the sense that he didn't ask to be a guru. He just kind of was there. He's enlightened, and he just kind of sat down, and people built this thing around him, and he's just like, cool, whatever, you know. So he's just like, cool, whatever, you know, build this thing around me, cool. But here comes Ram Dass, and Ram Dass is like, oh my God, like, you're amazing. I want to like learn from you. He's like, yeah, cool. But and Ram Dass at first is kind of like, are you really that good? Like, are you really that person that's supposed to be this guru? And you know, Neroli Baba isn't trying to prove anything to anyone, but he's like, yeah, you know, I'm okay. You know, like those commercials, like, yeah, I'm okay. But then he's like, yeah, so that moment you had with your mom a couple nights ago, that's why you're here. But that's it. Ram Dass's mind was totally blown, and he was like, I'm gonna learn from you. And to the point where Neroli Baba, he didn't never wanted to leave him. And like Ram Dass didn't want to leave Neroli Baba. But at one point Neroli Baba was like, yo, dude, like your life's purpose isn't to stay here with me. It's to take all this stuff that you learned and like take it back to where you're from. Like that's what you gotta do. So like leave. So he begrudgingly left, and then we got Be Here Now and everything else that came from that. But
right.
You know, it's like the classic story of like Siddhartha. You know, you go on this sojourn to find, you know, who the guy who became Buddha. You go on this sojourn because you're like, I don't want like this whole thing. I'm not cool with it. So I'm going to go figure out what it is that I want. And then you ultimately go through all these different experiences just to realize that you're meant to take this message and like bring it back to where you came from, or to surrender everything you've learned and just be an example of allowing other people to find their journey. It's quite interesting.
Wow. So in that whole mix, where are you?
I am sort of in the place of having kind of cured myself of the obsession with asana, but because of who I am, I still need physical things, right? So, but I'm more in a place of like, okay, Awilda, like, you know that you need like a spiritual practice that is regular. It doesn't have to be like an hour or even 45 minutes, but for me, it's kind of like how do I put it? It's like a ritual of coming back to myself in my connection with everything that's bigger than me. And I am a human like everybody else, so I still struggle with, you know, like expectations and desires and all those things. But I think that I'm working really, really hard on trying to manage them. You know, I think in our world, there isn't enough good that can be said about like also going to therapy. Like, you know, mental health is like a real thing.
Okay.
So, but like, you know, spiritual practice is good, you know, doing physical activity to ground like the body is good. Therapy is good. You know, I think it's really a practice of gratitude as well. And of just remembering and softening. I think one of my biggest lessons in all of this that I've been learning over the last year, especially, has just been that there can be a lot of power in being a little bit softer. That it doesn't have to always be like this way, or, you know, have to get it done like this. You know, we can be a little vulnerable. We can be, you know, a little out of sorts. It doesn't have to always get figured out right this second. And as much as I'm like even saying that right now, I have to still remind myself of that, because I think for me personally, and, you know, I can't speak for anyone else, but childhood plays a big role in all these things, and wanting to be established in a certain way and leave a certain legacy, impact people's lives in a certain way, it can get pretty demanding on oneself, especially if you're the one putting all of those things on yourself. You know?
Yeah. I have been known to bite off more than I could chew.
I'm sure you're not alone.
But I'm particularly interested, I started meditating a few years ago, and we're not talking hours and hours of whatever. Just as a matter of fact, I started meditating best when I was reading The Power of Now, Eckhart Tolle. And I got to a point in that process where, now get it, I've been back through the book trying to find the point in the book where I started doing these things. But I would sit down and I would meditate, and I would actually, I'd be in like a 3D full color world.
Yeah, you were astral projecting. That's totally different. I mean, it's meditation, but it's like
it just showed up when my eyes closed, but it was so crystal clear and stuff. And I was sitting in the chair one day, because I remember the part of his book where he said, well, when he's talking about training your mind, and he said, when you get to the point where you can observe the workings of your subconscious mind as you would the antics of a small child, then you'll know you're present and you're watching, you're seeing what's happening. And because he said, you get deep in your subconscious mind once it takes you out of this. So I was in this beautiful meditation one day, and I was like, wow, that's like really nice. And out of nowhere from behind me in this image was all this bright, effervescent blue smoke that just came around. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? And it was like, oh, subby's having some fun. Just going to throw this smoke in here. It was really pretty, but I was having really good meditations then. And I don't know how I got away from it. I would love to get back to that. It wasn't I don't know if I ever got to the point of an enlightenment, but I got to a point where it was okay. There was a peace involved with it, and it made everything easier. And somewhere along the line, I missed a page in that book. I got to go back and find it.
Yeah, no, what you guys are talking about, lost you there for a second. What you guys are talking about in yoga is referred to as samyama. So it's the idea that your mind, your body, and your spirit are all focused on the same thing at the same time, and it produces like a moment of nirvana, right? So that piece you're talking about, Kevin, is from that unity of those three things happening, and you being able to feel comfortable and sort of surrendered in that moment. That's real cool. I would get back. Yeah, I would say, look, I mean, what I always tell people who are like, man, I had this period where I was like really having, because there's all different types of meditations. Like you could do a walking meditation, you could do, there's all different kinds. What you were doing is bordering on like astral projection, which is like a pretty advanced and challenging type of meditation that really requires you to be completely open and completely present. And so for you, I would say start by just doing the Japanese practice of Raizen, which is where you just meditate for 1 minute at the same time every day. So if you set up your alarm to remind you at like 7:30 or whatever time you wake up, that for that 1 minute, you're just going to be still. You're not going to think about anything. You're not going to try to go anywhere. You're just going to be there. Like, I'm in my body. I'm breathing for 1 minute. And you'll see how shortly after doing that regularly, it'll be so much easier for you to meditate for longer and longer and longer. The other thing is that, like, the brain, like any other muscle, sometimes it gets bored with certain types of meditation, right? So, like, that's why there's so many different kinds. There's like transcendental, to like use the words loosely, just means mantra. So like if you have a mantra that you're working on for a period of time, normally it's about 30 days. So normally they'll have you, they'll talk to you, like if you were to pay, like to go on the Transcendental Meditation website, what they do is like they ask you like, well, what are you working on, Kevin? Okay, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to desire? Okay, Well, this is a mantra you should work with for 30 days, and every day say it 108 times.
108 times.
Yeah, and the reason why it's 108 is because there's a lot of spirituality in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That's very interconnected, the science, the spirituality, all of that. And so 108 is like a divine number. If you look at a Catholic rosary, it's 54 beads. Okay. If you look at like the Fibonacci sequence, it kind of leads eventually to like 108. It's all connected. So the reason why they have you do that is because it's like, I am focusing my energy specifically on this purpose for this amount of time. And the results can be crazy. Now, sometimes, right, they'll say, oh, do this for 30 days. And someone say, well, I'm not seeing any results. They'll, okay, do it another 30 days. I'm still not seeing results. Well, what's really going on? And then you find out that, well, actually what they want, while they want to like pass this exam, they're actually really scared. So they need to focus on getting unscared. So they give a meditation of fearlessness, and then they're able to accomplish what they need. Mm-hmm. So, there's that. There's binaural theta meditation. You can find tons of that on YouTube for free that clicks into your theta waves of your brain and immediately will take you to that place. If you listen to a theta meditation, you just kind of like lay down and just kind of just be in the zone. It will take you to crazy places. One time I did a theta meditation, and Babaji, who is a famous, not famous, but like a well-known mystic from ancient times, who's in Autobiography of a Yogi, showed up, took me to the face of the sun, and then took me to the moon and told me like why I need to be more like the moon than the sun. It was like really intense, but that was just like a theta meditation.
I've been kind of weary of those because, I mean, I do, you're familiar, I'm sure, with Silva mind control, what I don't call it mind control method anymore, but the Silva method.
Yeah, like subliminal messaging.
But anyway, so I got into binaural frequencies and stuff with that, but it just sounded a little hokey to me. And
no, it works, man. Let me tell you something. The theta, when they get on that 7.2 hertz, and there's a couple that are just like 10 minutes. It says like, I think that the title of the one that I used to use all the time is like binaural beats theta waves or something like that. And it's like a neon outline of a person sitting down with like chakras on them or something. And it's just like 10 minutes. And it's, it's like, and if you're kind of like, oh, I don't know, then I would say, look up like the Shruti box. It's a drone instrument that they use in yoga that connects with different notes. So if you're kind of like, I'm not sure about people controlling my mind, then I would look up like the Shruti box F or the Shruti box low C, because those are the most common. Low C connects with the root chakra and is like a low sound. And F connects with the Shruti SHRUTI. And then the F connects with the heart chakra. So oftentimes people mostly deal with like root chakra issues, family of origin, feeling like they belong, all that stuff, or heart stuff, relationships, blah, blah, blah. So you'll find those very easily on YouTube. But I mean, all that shamanic drumming meditation, that's another one that will take you deep, fast. I mean, so many. I could talk about this for like an hour.
Okay. Do you do the isolation tanks at all?
So I want to try that.
Okay.
I haven't tried it yet, but it's one of my
favorites. Kelvin, I think, had a different experience.
So I've heard, I'm kind of like on the fence because I've heard like the great, like the, oh my God, it was so relaxing and I was able to just surrender and whatever. Yeah, and then I've heard the flip side.
It takes a little while. Yeah. My wife could not close the door all the way. Our place there are a couple of different kinds, and some places just have pods. So like you climb in and it's a small space. The place that we have here in Savannah has their rooms. I mean, they're 7 feet tall, 7 to 8 feet long, and so I mean, like it's you climb in and they give you something to leave the door propped open if you need a little light in there. But yeah, the first time I went in, I figured this would happen. It took me about 20 minutes to. Yeah, it's almost panic when you get in there the first time. Like everything's gone.
Yeah.
But it took me about 20 minutes to settle in. Once I settled in, it was great for me. I know other people.
I've heard it's like being in the womb.
Yeah, I don't remember my experience in the womb, but yeah, I mean, the idea is that it's, well, I mean, some people claim to.
Yeah.
But it's, they keep it at 94 degrees, which is about your skin temperature, and they, there's enough Epsom salt in there to keep you floating.
Yeah, I floated, and I don't float. So,
yeah.
For me, I got a little, what is that when you don't know which way is up and down?
Vertigo?
Yeah, that. I got a little of that, and it was a little weird, and then I really had difficulty just relaxing so that I floated. But you do float. They said like 1,000 pounds of salt in this 6 inches of water or something, you'll float. But it was just kind of a weird experience, and I never really got comfortable. And the last time I went to visit Josh, I think we spent we'll drink less and float more. Maybe I'll give it another shot. But it was just an unusual experience for me. So, but he loves it. He comes out rejuvenated and reconnected, and I'm like, man, I'm just wet.
I definitely have been thinking about trying it. I mean, I think for me, that's like the way you guys describe that is like the way I feel about like a Vipassana retreat. Mm-hmm. Like those things kind of scare the bejesus out of me. And I've done some silent stuff, like in our 500-hour training that I'm currently 2/3 of the way through with, or 3/4 of the way through with. We have like meditation retreats where we do like silent days, and like you can't talk to anyone. I mean, unless it's like an emergency or whatever. Right. And so like I do feel like I'm kind of been mentally preparing myself because I do want to try that. Because I mean, it sounds like a mushroom experience I had where you're like where you're out in space. No, I mean, it sounds to me kind of like that experience where I felt like I was just like in space, out of body experience, with the cosmos or whatever. So, and they just opened one here in Atlanta called like Float 2S or Float 2 something.
I was gonna say you gotta have a center or two there if we've got one here.
Yeah, so. They just opened, and it's like and they have like these. From what I could tell from the website, it's like these rooms with these pools.
Yeah,
and I think they've done a little like kind of like a constellation type of light in the rooms, but not completely deprived of everything.
Gotcha.
But it's more of like a relaxation tank. If that makes sense. The other thing I've tried that I surprisingly really enjoyed was the salt rooms.
Okay.
Not the salt sauna. I mean, I love this, like, going to a good Korean sauna and doing it in the salt room and everything like that. But what I'm talking about are these salt detox rooms where you go in and the whole room is like, it's cool. The temperature is cool. So it's maybe like 70 degrees, and there's multiple like zero gravity chairs, which I also was like, what is the point of this? But then I sat in one for 45 minutes. I was like, oh, okay, I get it. And you're just like surrounded by Himalayan sea salt. There's salt on the ground. And you're in there just for 45 minutes, just like breathing. And when I tell you, it felt, I mean, because salt, it takes the ions and it just has this sort of energetic thing that it does in real life. And it was incredible. Like I wanted to do it more and more and more. It's not cheap though. So there's that. They have one here in Atlanta, but the one I went to was in West Palm.
Okay.
West Palm Beach. And it was really good.
Were the lights out?
Oh, they were dim. Okay. It was like very, very dim. It's a room where you have like, there was maybe like 8 chairs in there. And you have like these little like half cubbies. Where you kind of like when you lay back, it's like a horse blinders as you can't really see the person next to you. And they give you these like silent disco headphones that have like, relaxing music or people
Okay.
chant or whatever. So you just have your own little vibe. And
So it's a shared experience, but you can have it on your own.
Yeah, I mean, you can have it on your own.
An isolated shared
really,
experience.
yeah.
But other people can be in there with you, like in a tank, like it's just you. There's no.
It's a room, but like you don't even realize there was people.
Okay.
Like when I was done, I got up and I was like, I kind of like forgot where I was, and I was like, oh shoot, like and there was a woman in there who was in there for like a double. Plus, if you have any type of skin issues, if you have any respiratory issues, if you have like anxiety, there was a woman in there who had full body eczema. Apparently, I couldn't tell. She said it had cured her eczema and nothing else had cured it. There were men who had like sleep apnea, who I talked to, and who had like really bad snoring, who this had like fixed it because it dries, it like dries it out in a healthy way.
Interesting.
It's a new concept to me. We'll have to check that out. Wow. So transitioning, one of the other things I wanted to talk about, and we'll get to. I mean, you've got a new book out since, and you're still doing wellness retreats, and you got a couple coming up, and we'll talk about those in a minute. One of the other things I wanted to talk about was seeing like darkness within. When we talked last time. Part of your backstory is law school, and since you had a minor heart incident while you were clerking, and that's when you realized you were heading toward a sort of dark place, and you were looking to move out of that. Now you put a lot of hard work into that, and you were able to say, okay, it's time to. You were able to say at a young age, it's time to cut the cord on it. You didn't wait until you were 55 and all of a sudden, Ariana Huffington falling asleep at the keyboard. I don't know exactly how old she is and whatever, but she has certainly accomplished a lot in life already. Whereas you at 27, 28 years old were like, oh, no, we got to get away from this. And I'm guessing that your drive for more extreme yoga poses comes from that kind of same driven place. Can you talk more about recognizing darkness and moving away from it, even though it means a lot of time and the hard work
and money
is all left behind.
Yeah, I mean, I think like an important place to start with all this is like every experience, as my teacher says, your lived experiences all have value, right? So even if your trajectory was here and now you're over here, everything that happened before has contributed to that like subtle shift that moves that trajectory and has provided you with so much data that you can use moving forward. I think for me, part of it was really like, first of all, it wasn't like it wasn't like, oh shoot, I had a heart attack. No, I shouldn't be. I mean, it kind of was like that, but it was like, it took me a while to kind of come to terms with that. Like years to come to terms with that and to say out of my mouth, like, I don't want this, but my heart and my mind to be like, but you paid all this money and you did all this thing and you're like the only one in your family that has this opportunity and like the first one to graduate from college and to go to graduate school. Like, what are you doing? But I think that I had to kind of also look at my mental health and my modus operandi. Like at that time, I was partying a lot. I was down to 105 pounds. And like, I'm maybe 5'1", but my entire life, I've always been very athletically built. And I was like, just withering away. I was like emaciated. And if my fiance heard me, he'd be like, "You're finally admitting it." But it took me like several years to get back to a healthy weight after all of that.
Sure.
And I was like doing, like party drugs and like all types of stuff. And it's not to say that like, oh, like that stuff is bad and you shouldn't ever do it. But like I had to recognize that I was engaging in a particular kind of behavior because I wasn't happy. Right. I was also at that time in a relationship that was going nowhere. And that I was also trying to like force a square peg into a round hole kind of thing. And I just kind of had to have a come to Jesus with myself. That's like, listen, you are no longer like really in a mental space to be a partner to this person because it's not working. Right. Like you need to take care of yourself. B, like your behavior is a little bit out of control. You need to rein it in. And like, C, you're freaking miserable. Like you've tried all these other things in the law. You don't want to do any of them. And you're still trying to figure out how to force yourself to do it. That doesn't make any sense. So, and the other thing is, spiritually speaking, at that time, I was also getting back into my own practice and to kind of this idea, my grandmother always said, like, life is too short to spend it crying because then you're going to look so old before you're even old. Right. And I'm one of those people that I'm an Aquarius, and so I'm very emotive and my emotions come out, so like if I'm upset, like people know. If I'm sad, like even, people know. Even if I'm doing my best to contain it, I just have that kind of energy. So it got hard for me to ignore it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say that since then I haven't had those moments of like, like who am I? Like what am I doing?
Right.
Is this the right thing? But I will say I haven't had as many medical issues for sure. And before that, like I was quite sickly. Like I just thought I was going to be like a sick person all the time, and while I'm always good for a cool mystery illness here and there that comes up,
Right.
I'm much more physically stable. And not to like bring it back to yoga, but in Ayurveda, there's this idea that you have these five bodies. You have the body made of food, the emotional body, the intellectual body, the energetic body, and like the bliss body. And so like what I realized is that all my bodies are very disassociated. Like I didn't even know that that's what I was realizing, but I realized like I was kind of all over the place and I had to find more integration. And so, that's really for me what it's been about. And it kind of became a choice where it was like be miserable and potentially be financially stable or take some risks to develop a new normal around finances or a new idea around what you need and all of that, and then actually be happy or be like well adjusted. Because the truth is, like, I grew up in the projects. I didn't have a lot of stuff. Like I I was lucky because I still got a lot of different experiences, but like at the end of the day, I don't need a lot to be okay. Like if I have food and a place to live and some technology, like I'm okay. Like I'm not someone that has to shop all the time or has to like buy a ton of expensive things. Like, like my fiance forced me to get a new purse. Like that's kind of who I am. I'm kind of like, I don't really care about those things so much. Like if I had to spend my money on things, it'd be travel. Like that's what I care about. That's why I made that part of my business because, I had to figure out a way to make it be in my life. But I think in terms of, really getting back to your question about like recognizing that darkness and doing some work to change it, it really has to do with some level of honesty with yourself. And, kind of to come back to that example you said about, well, you didn't wait till you were 55. In the defense of those 55-year-olds,
sure.
A lot of the times intergenerationally, the external influences placed upon them and the expectations placed upon them as they were growing, influenced their idea of what success is. And they didn't have the kind of the 90s thinking, the .com era boom of like, you can make success whatever you want. And even those people, you know, who grew up in the 70s, 80s, and 90s are like, well, it has to be this, it has to be that. And I think it all starts with each one of us giving ourselves permission to redefine success on our own terms and to be okay with pursuing that, everyone else's idea or validation be damned.
Right. And
it's a big decision.
Yeah, it is. And I think yours is really the first generation. Like, we're just far enough apart in age. I was born in 1976. So, like, I got the internet when I got to college, but it wasn't, nobody understood how to make money with it until my classes had gone through, you know, like we're like the last 3 or 4 years, the end of the 70s. Those, you know, we're the folks who kind of had gone through college and started our careers, and then could adapt to an internet life if we chose, but we had to take our existing careers and move them online. Your generation kind of had, you know, high-speed internet when you got out of college, and you could start your careers online. Just that little bit, like, you know, which isn't to say that nobody like older than you, you know, could do it. You know, like everybody's got this opportunity now.
It was just more integrated.
Right. You're it's awesome that you jumped on that so early, because you're like the first group to have that. The
funny thing though is
mindset.
That I still feel late because like I went to high school with the guy that created Instagram. You know, and like I feel like, so I was born in 84. And I feel like my year is like it's like that bridge year. So like I grew up with a rotary phone.
Yep.
I remember when beepers first came out. Like my first cell phone was like a boyfriend of my mom's got it first because he worked for the NBA, and it was like a Qualcomm. It was like a brick, you know, and you could like you know, beat someone off of you with it. I remember like
you were probably still in law school when we got smartphones, and yeah,
I mean smartphones came out like
2007 was the first iPhone.
Like Facebook. Like I remember when Facebook first came out, and I was in college because I went to boarding school, and Facebook was an actual book that was like, these are all the kids that go here. This is an extension to their room, you know? And so for me, I actually was a little reticent about the internet and like getting on there, because my father also works in IT, and that was a career he made for himself later in life after he completely turned his life around. And so he's always been like, you know, everything's on there. It stays on there, you know? And so as you know, it's funny that you're like, you know, you got on it early, because for me, I'm like, I should have been on it like way before that. Like I remember Kevin, because we were in the same advisory group, believe it or not. Kevin Systrom, I remember him being like, you know, you should try C++. And I'm like, out of here, Kevin. I don't care about that. You know, like.
Well, and it's like, wasn't Instagram first like a drinking
for whiskey?
app? Like,
it was for whiskey.
Bourbon. Yeah.
Yeah, and or bourbon, and it's like, but now like he recently, and we're not like close or anything still, but like he recently sold it for like multiple $1 billion, like billions of dollars. So that's cool. But I think for me, with the internet and everything, and look, you know, I'll be honest with you, like I'm still working my way to my first million. You know what I mean? Like I'm still working on it. But there definitely have been people that have been able to do amazing and incredible things. I think that the challenge for online entrepreneurs is knowing what it is that you want to accomplish, as opposed to comparing yourself like in everything, you know, as opposed to comparing yourself to like the Gary V's out there and the like, you know, the you know, all those types who are like blowing up and like have all these different things and are like, you know, making all the money, because you're not Gary Vee, you're Josh Shear,
right.
and Kevin Ringgold, and Awilda Rivera, and
Gary
our
Vee
trajectory is
wasn't.
different.
Gary Vee wasn't intending to do it on the internet. It just happened that way. It coincided.
Exactly.
Like he did. Yeah, he was in a product. He was in wine. But to that point, the other part of the question about coming out of darkness is how did you know? And really more from a prescriptive standpoint, how can our listeners, if they're trying to leave a darkness, how do you know which way to go toward the light?
That's hard.
It's one thing to start running away from something, but what do you start running
towards? Yeah, I would say the first thing to do is to ground. Find something that's very grounding, that's very comforting, that's healthy. Right? So healthy, comforting, and grounding. So whether that's having more interpersonal contact with your loved ones, or being in nature, or reading, or getting back to basics, or coloring in a notebook, like it can be something so small that helps you to start to kind of just take the cover off a little bit. And sometimes it has to be something completely unrelated. Like for me, it's playing squash. Okay. Most of the time, when I can get out of my own head if I lose, but whatever it is, it has to be something that's going to take you completely out of that funk. So like I interviewed a film guy who told me like when he gets in his like slumps or whatever, he just like consumes a lot of content because that helps him kind of get back to being creative. Right. So whatever it is that is kind of got you blocked or got you down, just put it down and walk away from it completely. Like just kind of give yourself a day off, if you will, to just do something totally different. Ask yourself, what are the things I really want to do that I haven't done in a long time? And like do one of those things. For me, it was kind of getting back into the spiritual practice and making a separate decision that like, oh, culturally, this is my responsibility to keep these practices alive and to keep doing these things. And that was enough to kind of take my mind away from work and being a lawyer and paying bills. That allowed me to open the door a little bit more to getting out of it. I think the other thing is just also admitting that you're in a bad place.
That's like a tough one.
So many times it's like, oh no, I'm fine, but you want to like kill everyone. It doesn't make sense. Like I just wrote a piece for, I think I published it in Thrive Global or Medium. I think it's on Thrive that says, how to get out of, something like, I forget what the title was, but it was something about being an obstacle to your own happiness. Right. And kind of the 4 things that are always going to make you unhappy. One is like comparing your happiness to other people's happiness, right? Or having an untenable idea of what happiness is. And the other one is kind of like always not actually acknowledging what you have going for you. Like, for example, in the article I wrote, I was crying in the kitchen, like, I'm just unhappy, nothing is working, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, okay, you have clients. Like you're doing the thing that you love to do. You have support. Like, what is real happiness anyway? And is what you're saying that you're not even the same thing? So admitting that you're just not in a good place is part of it, because that's when you start to do the real work of uncovering why you're not in a good place and giving yourself permission to say, okay, well, what can I do to shift that?
Right on. Kelvin, did you have anything to tack on before or to ask? And
no, I think you just hit it, because it was gonna be, so how do we? Yeah, no, you read my mind. Stop that. I thought we hit before. No, there's so much, and I think you are one of our few guests that we have talked less with on the show, because you start to talk, and it's just like,
yeah, we don't have to pry anything out of you.
you know, and it's like, oh, good stuff. What now? Oh, wait a minute. I was so wrapped up in what you were saying a few minutes ago. But you cover a lot of space, and it's like you just kind of answer all the questions as they come. I am amazed. You see, your youth is a problem for me because you have all this wisdom. And what are you, 6, 7? You know,
I'm 35. I'm going to be 36 pretty soon, actually.
So when we last talked to you, you were doing a gratitude.
Yeah.
Your 34th birthday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk to us then about, well, now that you've told us your age, everybody knows you're a millennial. So let's talk success math.
Yeah. So
this is the new book.
A little bit after our interview, which was about like 19 months ago.
Yep.
Sometime after that, and I'd be lying if I could tell you this was the exact day and time that the idea came to my mind. But I had kind of been thinking on, and I've said meditating, but I mean that in the sense of like putting energy and focus on an idea as opposed to like, universe tell me. And the irony is that I have never been a good math student. In fact, when I was little and I was in prep, the academic enrichment program, I was required to take double math and wasn't allowed to take a language because I'm dyslexic as well. And so it's a mess. Math is just like crazy for me. And so if you would have ever asked me, like if I was going to write a book with math at all attached to it, I would have laughed at you in your face. But sometime after our meeting, I was thinking like, how the heck do I share what it is that I figured out from interviewing all these amazing people on my show and working with all these people one-on-one that can actually help others in the world, right? And so one day, apparently, the actual day and time unknown, this formula came into my mind. And I promise I had not thought the word proof in probably a decade.
Right.
But this formula came in my mind, and I was like, suddenly I just wrote this proof. And it, was like S is success as you defined it, which equals, inside the parentheses above the fraction bar, because it seems like a complex formula, right? It's like the alignment of your beliefs, your values, and your behaviors. Like, oh, duh. Okay. Well, that is factored against your emotional support system and your mental toughness, right? As defined by these factors. And then that's all great. But if you're not executing, then you're dead in the water. And okay, well, you can execute, but what's your actions in that execution looking like, right? Like, sure, you have great initial actions, but like, what's your follow-up action or your follow-through action? And then I was like, oh crap, like this is a book. And I took that and I just started writing. Like I wrote a kind of a loose outline. And this, I mean, to be totally honest with you, it was the scariest thing I've probably ever done because I didn't write a thesis in college. And when I went to law school, I was told that I was a bad writer. Because legal writing is completely devoid of anything that is
You're an
individual.
There's no
exactly. And you just
emotion.
have to be like completely logically connected. Like it's like robot writing, if you will. And so I was not very good at it. And I had a very hard teacher, and he was the type of teacher that was like, oh, you got to be at the beginning of the year and you just got a C, but actually that C is worth more than that B. And you're like, tell that to my transcripts, dude. But so when I started writing the process, I was kind of like scared. But then because I'm practical, I was like, at the end of the day, I just need to put a goal, right? Like I need to know how many words at the end of the day I'm trying to write, and then just write it, right? So I decided I was going to write 25,000 words because Animal Farm is 27,000. And well, if it's good enough for George Orwell, like it's good enough for me. And, I'm not telling a dystopian tale of that. Oh, yeah, I agree, right? And so I was like, okay, I'm going to write 2,000 words a week, and we're just going to see what happens.
That's
and so
a very
July,
reasonable amount. I mean, that's a page a day.
yeah, and so July 21st, I know this because I started texting a friend of mine from college who's a writer, just like secretly, like, oh my God, I think I'm going to write a book. And so July 21st of 2018, I texted her, I said, oh, I just started, I have 2,000 words. By September, I was like, I have 10,000 words. You know, by January, I was done with the book. Like, I was done with the manuscript, and I was able to finish it and have it published and ready to go within 10 months of starting to write it.
Yeah, that's
which
incredible.
I guess is kind of fast.
Yeah.
But part of it, I think, is because the book really wrote itself. I mean, I can't take the credit really, because the book kind of just like came to me and it just made sense. So it just kind of like wrote itself. It was like, well, duh, this is this and this is that. And here are some good examples of it. And, you know, here's how it might work in your life. And let's apply these things. So yeah, that's kind of how the book went.
That's great. Lessons that come through you are, you know, better than the ones that you try to come up with in your head usually.
Exactly.
Wow. So, okay, it means I have another book to buy now. Is it on Kindle or audiobook?
Yeah, it's not on audiobook yet, but it's on Kindle and in paperback. It's available actually at 40,000 distributors. Like you could probably go into your
find a copy. I mean,
oh yeah, you can find one for sure. I mean, it's a Barnes and Noble, it's Amazon, it's everywhere. One of my aunt's friends, my aunt who's also named Awilda Rivera, one of her friends actually tried to like test the theory of how available it was, and like went to an airport bookstore to ask for it, and they were like, actually it's sold out, but we can order you one. And he was like, oh, okay.
We're flying through Atlanta on the way home, so we'll stop there and see if they've got it for you. You get this local author, you got to have her.
No, here. Wow. Well, that's awesome. That is awesome. So
yeah, I mean
oh, sorry.
Well, no. I was just going to say that the idea behind the book, just for those who are kind of like, ooh, I don't know, math. The idea is that, like, the formula looks complex, just like when someone asks you, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Or how do you feel like you're going to make a living? Or what is success to you? Feels extremely scary and complex. But it's like when someone is like, actually, this is the cheat code. Then you're like, oh, it's so easy, right? So like the idea behind the book is to make it to tap into that feeling of like, oh my God, this is scary and what the hell is this? But then to just show it's like really easy when you just take it apart, and it's holistic. It's like everything that is you is a part of your success journey and is valuable and can be used to move you to where you want to go. It's just about recognizing that, as opposed to trying to compartmentalize everything and achieve something in a vacuum, which is wholly unsustainable.
Wow.
Awesome. That's good, because I have some weird angles. So I'm glad to know that I can incorporate everything that is me into whatever is going to eventually be my total success. Because
that's right.
Scared.
That's right. Listen, I'm a weirdo, so no. The more weird, the better. That's what makes you you. Seriously.
Wow. So
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Well, by way of starting to head toward a close, see, this will come out on the 23rd, if my math's right. So I know you've got like a retreat coming up like real soon, and then you've got one coming up in April.
Yeah. So I'm really excited because the one coming up is the registration is already closed and everything. It's to Spain and Morocco. It's gonna be cool. I mean, if anyone listening, you know, has the financial means to book a flight to Madrid in a week, I mean, they're more than welcome to sign up and join me. I'll never turn anyone away. But the one in April, I'm really excited about because it's my first domestic retreat. I'm partnering with my teacher who did my 200-hour and my 500-hour yoga training, who is extremely learned. Like, she's been to Krishnamacharya's Mandaram in India multiple times. She studied with Desikachar. She studied with Michelle Angot. She studied with, you think of a extremely well-respected person in the field of yoga, and she's probably studied with them. So I'm super excited to be co-hosting this trip with her. It's going to be in St. Augustine, which is quite a special place. I didn't really know a lot about it before I started researching it for this, but it's the first established place, even older than Roanoke, in the United States, because the Spanish started it. Mm-hmm. It is like if New Orleans and Savannah had a baby. It's extremely historical. We're doing it during a full moon. So like right in the middle of the trip, there's going to be a full moon, and we're going to do like a full moon ceremony, optional for anyone that's kind of like, I'm not into it. You don't have to come. But there's going to be like yoga and meditation. We're going to have a beach house. We're going to have a chef that's going to come and do a couple of dinners. And believe it or not, if they register before October 15th, the whole trip is only $800. It is shared accommodation, but so shared rooms, but individual beds, obviously. And the other cool thing is that it's real. Like, let's say you want to fly in from some other part of the country. It's just an hour or 45 minutes south of the Jacksonville airport. So you can fly into Jacksonville, really cute, sweet, small airport, and then get to St. Augustine. And, I'm debating actually, if a lot of people are flying in, I may offer like a shuttle or something. Depending on that. But we're super excited, and if for some reason people are like, well, I'm gonna wait till November 1st or something to sign up, it's only $950 after that. So under $1,000.
It's less than a 3-hour trip for us, so I'm gonna see if my wife's not gonna listen to this, so she doesn't know, but I'm gonna see if I can make it work for us. I'm sure my mother would.
It would be great. We would love to have you. I'm
sure my mother would love 5 or 6 days with the baby, and
of course. Yeah, no, we'd love to have you. And the idea behind the trip is called Full Moon Beach Escape. And the idea is to really give people an opportunity, of course, to get out of their comfort zone, to meet new people, but then also to kind of have a container to set intentions and a container to kind of like explore a little bit more of that. I don't want to call it like a spiritual practice, but I want to call it maybe like a connection practice. And truly, Leanne Neal is like one of the only people I would do that kind of a retreat with, just because she's just so good at it. So that's cool. And then the end of next year, I haven't decided yet if it's going to be a women's only or if it's going to be co-ed, but at the end of next year, I'm going to be doing a trip to Bali that I'm super excited about. It should be about 9 days, like with a weekend on each end of the week, because it takes so long to get there. 2 locations, going to all the temples and all the things that people go to Bali for. But then, of course, getting a little beach action as well. Yeah. Like surfing, massages, all that kind of stuff. And with this trip, the Bali trip is going to be the first trip that I do with airfare included from the United States. So that should be pretty cool too.
Nice.
I noticed that Josh just issued a challenge because they're planning to be to that. So he challenges me in very subtle ways. Gee, let's see if Kelvin's gonna pick this up. Yeah.
Well, that wasn't so much. That's a challenge for me too, because I gotta, we gotta coordinate 2 people time off of work and babysitting, because.
Well, Josh, if we just work on getting rich between now and then, we won't have to worry about it.
That's right.
So we get her book, we got the formula. We're set then, right? That's it.
That's right.
But you may find out when you read the book that what matters to you isn't being rich, and then what are you going to do?
I don't see that as happening.
Well, okay, so well,
rich is relative.
On the other hand,
exactly.
I think rich is not the goal, but I think it's part of the means. Like I think it's
True.
something that happens on the way, and by rich, I mean we don't need. We might not.
Oh, but you mean
I don't know what number is in Kelvin's head, but it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be in the trillions.
I just need to be able to do what I want, when I want, go where I want, without having to worry about it.
Right. To just say, hey, I think I'm going to
Amen, brother.
Right. The moon's not on my list, so we don't have to worry about that trip.
Right.
Now they have bacteria up there.
That'll be pretty cheap in a few years anyway.
So anyway, besides, this is a long trip, and no, but it's good. No, man, I forgot how much fun we had the first time when you were on the show. So I'm so very glad you came back, and
I'm glad. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed talking with y'all.
Hey, we'll have to I'll be watching for that Bali retreat when you get back. Maybe we'll make this like an every 18 to 20 month thing, and we'll
sounds
when you get back
good to
from
me.
Bali, we'll see. We'll get back on and see how your life has changed.
Yeah, if I'm enlightened.
I might have to come to one of your retreats and actually have the podcast. So that's
well, I mean,
goal,
if you come to St. Augustine,
we'll make some time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can find 45 minutes or 2 hours.
Josh is my authorized, sanctioned challenger. So he's one of few people in my existence that has the privilege of being able to issue me a challenge and me not blow it off. So
well, he does so graciously. I mean, it's hard to
he does and
not accept
too.
it. Yeah, pretty public. Yeah, I would say in the presence of his child. So it's kind of like Uncle Kelvin. Like, are you about that life?
Yeah. I will say, he and I met. God, he knows how many years.
It's been a while ago. Yeah, it's been 15
I quit counting anymore, but and when we met, I did not see us as being the friends that we have become because we were such different people. I thought, but we have enough similarities and or compatibilities that it makes for a nice mix. So.
Well, that and we're both Scorpios, which means we're too stubborn to
there is
to let it go.
Call it off, right?
I forgot about that part. So see, that's why I have him around. So awesome! This was great. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So where do you want people to? I would say anything that you wanted to get to that we didn't get to. I'm guessing not, but also B, where do you want people to connect with you online? Where do you hang out the most?
Yeah, so a couple of exciting announcements. Of course, you can always find me at awildarivera.com. We talked about the book is out. I have the podcast. All that's still happening. I've, as I mentioned, I've been writing a lot more. I've been picked up by the startup on Medium, so I've been publishing a lot of articles there. I'm on Thrive Global. I just got asked to be a contributor for Lifehack, so one of my first articles will be coming out there shortly in the next probably week or two. And I think the title of that article is like the 6 challenges in life you must overcome to become a better person. So I tackle like loss, failure, setbacks, your story, and I forget the last 2, but kind of talk about that in that article. Most exciting thing, though, is that the Success Math Companion course is about to go live in a couple of weeks, maybe like a week or 2. And because a lot of people have read the book and they're like, this is great, but like, I need more. Like, what do I do with this? So this is an 8-module course that's going to be hosted on Teachable, that has an over 90-page workbook with, of course, this face, kind of taking you through it all and giving you some new examples. And I tried to make it reasonably priced. So if people purchase it outright, I think it's going to be $4.99. Otherwise, it's $97 a month for like 6 months. So you pay a little bit extra, but you get to have a payment plan option, and it's completely self-guided. So that's really one of the more exciting things that's happening, that's going to be coming up soon. Other than that, I'm just trying to continue to give people value. They can always sign up for my mailing list. If they go to one of those articles, there's a link for them to sign up, or if they come on to my website, I'm happy to be of service.
Great. Well, thank you so much for coming back. Congratulations on your success, and wishes for continued, and hopefully we'll see you like in real life in not too long.
Yeah, that would be really exciting. Well, thanks for having me, guys. You guys have a great rest of your day and an awesome weekend.
Thanks. You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. Show notes and more at jkwdpodcast.com. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with your friends, and we will see you next week. Bye. A Better Humanhood production.